Welcome to episode 145 of the Startup Show. Today we are here in Lausanne and I'm meeting with the CEO and co-founder of Bestmile, Raphael, and we are talking about the future of autonomous driving. We talk about Bestmile, obviously, and we talk about why you should start something on your own and how to get started. Make sure to stay tuned. Welcome to episode 145 of the Startup Show. Today I'm here for the first time in Lausanne, meeting with some very promising startups. So today I have the CEO and co-founder of Bestmile, Raphael. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Welcome.
It's such a pleasure to have you, and it's really exciting to be here in Lausanne today. As usual on the show, you get about 1.5 minutes to introduce yourself to my audience.
Sure. So I'm Raphael, co-founder and CEO of Bestmile, 30 years old, living here in Lausanne in Switzerland. I did my studies at EPFL, which is a Swiss Federal Institute of Technology here in Lausanne. In theory, it was studies in civil engineering, but as part of civil engineering, you have mobility and transportation. And this is how you see also the link with Bestmile, because Bestmile, we are building a solution for transportation companies. And so by having this kind of studies and background, it was really useful to start a company like Bestmile.
So tell me what Bestmile is doing.
So Bestmile, we are providing a cloud-based solution designed to connect, manage and optimize any fleet of vehicles. So we are not a transportation company ourselves, but we are providing an ecosystem, an operating system, helping transportation companies to run and operate on-demand transportation solution. So if you want, it's a little bit like Uber and Lyft. They have their own solution for themselves. So they build their own software a few years ago. But what we do at Bestmile is that we are providing a similar software to transportation companies that don't want to build their own solution alone, which is by far the biggest part of the market. We did that at the beginning for electric and autonomous vehicle, and again, this is why we started Bestmile. But you can also use the same kind of technology for existing solution with a human driver, because we know that the transition period between existing human-driven fleet to autonomous fleet is going to take 5, 10, maybe 20 years, depending on the city and country. And so you really need to have this kind of mixed solution, which is completely vehicle agnostic, if you really want to help transportation companies to run an on-demand transportation system. Another analogy to maybe better understand what we do is like, if you look at an airport, you have people like Boeing and Airbus doing planes with a lot of technology inside the plane, including an autopilot. So it's pretty similar to a self-driving car. But at the end of the day, you still need a control tower if you want to have an airport working. And it's a little bit the same with on-demand transportation solution using autonomous vehicle. You will have technology inside the vehicle, really running the vehicle and making the vehicle smart. But you will have another type of technology on top of the vehicle, helping a transportation company to run a fleet. And we have this second part of the ecosystem.
Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more into practicality. Who are your customers and how are they using your solution?
Yes, our goal is really to partner and to help any type of transportation company. And we are mostly focusing on 4 categories. We can help transit operators or public transport operators in Europe. We can help TNCs or taxi companies also running on-demand transportation. And for the last few years, these both categories were clearly the focus at Bestmile. But recently, we also started to focus on rental car companies as well as car makers or OEMs, because we also see this kind of new players going into on-demand transportation. So we really have this kind of 4 categories, and we can help them to run also 4 types of on-demand transportation solution, 2 types with autonomous vehicle and 2 types with human-driven vehicles. So you can use our solution for fleets of autonomous shuttle, but also in a few months with robotaxis, like a Google car, for example. And when it comes to human-driven mobility, you can use our solution to run ride-hailing or microtransit mobility solutions. So it's a really large type of mobility solution working behind the scene, like other types of software like SAP. SAP is maybe a good example. SAP is running a lot of businesses all around the globe, but without being really visible from the outside. And at Bestmile, we have the same kind of ambition, being like an operating system for mobility solutions.
When you look at, let's say, your landscape and competitors, where would you see are the biggest threats, let's say, directly for Bestmile? Is it more like other startups? Or do you see, let's say, big corporate, let's say, big car manufacturers who are more developing also in this direction?
It can be both, but if you are a car maker, you have to understand that, yes, if you want to become your own robotaxi company, in theory you can build your own solution alone. You just need time, money and knowledge. But some car makers will try to do that, some others will work with partners. But nevertheless, if you are a car maker and you want to sell your vehicles to another transportation company you don't control, like the taxi company in London or companies like that, you are never going to be able to sell the fleet and the control tower on top. Because if you are the taxi company of London and you buy both pieces of this ecosystem from the same player, then you are locked in a closed ecosystem. And this is why big transportation companies all around the globe are always going to look for vehicle agnostic solution like ours, because it's going to give them a lot of freedom when it comes to the fleet and the choice of the vehicle they want to use. But we have also competition from existing players designing conventional fleet management solution only for human-driven vehicles, and some of them will try to become compatible with autonomous vehicles in the next few years. We start to see also competition from new players, so new startups like us starting from scratch with a solution for autonomous vehicle. But as we started 5 years ago, we have a good ecosystem of existing partners. We also have the chance to work already today with some of the biggest transportation companies worldwide. I think we are in a quite good position.
When you look at the ecosystem that you just mentioned, where do you see, let's say, the biggest challenges coming the years ahead of you?
It's really finding a good way for us to work with big car makers, to make them realize that they don't need to reinvent the wheel. Again, before we were just taking the example of SAP. SAP is at the center of a lot of businesses all around the globe, but at the end of the day, no one is building again its own SAP because it's just cool and they want to control it. At some point, it will become the same with on-demand mobility solutions, but it's a step-by-step approach where you really have to prove the value. You have also to prove to big companies that you are a credible partner and you are not going to die in 2 months. So sometimes being a startup is nice, but when it comes to really big transportation companies or big car makers, you also have to be a credible companies. And this is why we are scaling quite fast in order to reach this kind of minimal size in order to become a good partner for this kind of companies.
We always do like some research and try to find out like what people are interested. And one of the questions, you kind of like already answered it, but is have you ever considered like building your own cars?
No, never. Because I think we want to be really clear about where we want to be in the value chain. Just before I was saying for a car maker, it's going to be really difficult to sell the car and the operating system on top, and the same is true for us. If we do the car, we cannot do the operating system on top and vice versa. Again, the strong point of Bestmile is to be vehicle agnostic. So by using our tool, transportation companies can run any type of fleet, autonomous vehicle, non-autonomous vehicle, maybe autonomous vehicle from different types or different brands. And if we were building our own vehicle, having this kind of flexibility will not be possible because external partners will not work with us.
Right. And when you look a little bit into the future, you mentioned the timeline about 5 to 20 years, which is kind of a big estimate.
Yes, it's quite large.
Yeah, sure. What will it depend on? Let's say if you say like we go for the more optimistic of 5 years, why would it happen in 5 years? What could it hold it back till 20 years?
Well, I think you have to realize that it's already happening. If you go to Phoenix in Arizona, you are going to see a big fleet of vehicles operated by Waymo, which is a Google car division of Alphabet. So I think we are now at a stage where this technology is working. And you have some early companies starting to run it at scale. You have other car makers like General Motors or others who are going to do that in the next few months or 1-2 years. So we are really at the beginning of something that is going to change really heavily how people are living and moving in cities, but it's still going to be a step-by-step approach. Tomorrow, you are not going to see 100 million of robotaxi everywhere all around the globe. It's going to be a few selected cities where you have a political willingness to have this kind of solution, also where the road network is good enough, where you have like connectivity, where weather is not too bad, because for this kind of vehicles, having good weather is important. So you have a few limited number of conditions allowing transportation companies to start running on-demand and autonomous mobility solution, but it's going to, again, to grow step by step. But it's already a reality today. This is my main point.
Let's say 5 to 20 years is a very big gap. Do you have like any like say estimate of time where you say like I believe in so and so many years it's going to be
I think in the next 5 years we are going to see maybe 10, 20 cities worldwide running robotaxi at scale. Some cities in the United States, might be cities in Europe like London, also Dubai, Singapore, Tokyo, for example. Tokyo is going to organize the next Olympic Games, and they would like to use that as a showcase for new technologies like autonomous vehicle. So yes, it's coming. It's coming, I think, faster than a lot of people thought. 5 years ago, people were saying, okay, we are 20 years out, but it's happening right now.
Yes.
Again, people like General Motors and Waymo are almost ready.
Right. Danny Gutenberg said 2020. Not sure if you know him.
Yeah, 2020, 2022. It's more or less what all the car makers are targeting. But you have to realize that it's not going to be vehicles sold to you and me. It doesn't make any sense to own an autonomous vehicle, a fully autonomous vehicle. It's going to be too expensive. You are going to have way too much constraints when it comes to maintenance, update, and all these kind of things. So these vehicles are really going to be owned as a fleet by a transportation company. And this transportation company is going to offer you a service, so a service like Uber, but fully robotized and for a cheaper price because you don't have to pay the driver inside.
Now, when you look more into, let's say, the ecosystem, I mean, you've been in the game for at least 5 years now here in Lausanne. What do you notice about the ecosystem here and in general, let's say, Switzerland?
Well, Switzerland, we are not a country of car makers, unlike France or Germany. But we are a country with a really good quality of transportation solutions. And I think it's a nice place for a company like Bestmile to start because we are not French or German. We can be really independent and work easily with both. We are really close to really strong schools like EPFL here in Lausanne, which is a really nice place to attract talent and to hire people. But since the beginning, we also understood that just being in Switzerland was not enough. Anyway, the market in Switzerland is way too small. So by definition, our market is global. And if you want to target a global market like that, you have to have also local teams elsewhere. And this is why since 2016, we started to have a small team in San Francisco. And this team also scaled quite a lot over the last few months. We also opened small offices in Asia, like in Tokyo and Singapore. So really in places where we see a need to have a stronger relationship with customers or partners. Because we know that we cannot do everything from Lausanne, for sure.
Right. And Ben, what about Lausanne by itself?
Well, I think Lausanne, again, proximity with EPFL was really, really important for us at the beginning. EPFL was in reality our first customer. In 2014 and 15, we were part of 2 European projects which took place here in Lausanne. And we use this kind of projects to develop, test, and validate our technology. So it was really a unique opportunity, and we were lucky to have people like EPFL trusting us and allowing us to be part of this kind of project. But we have like 25 nationalities at Bestmile, so having a diploma from EPFL is by far not a criteria. At the beginning, it was an easy choice for us to attract people out of EPFL. But as of today, we are hiring people all around the globe, and we have a really international team.
So when you look at, let's say, the next couple of years, what's ahead of you with Bestmile?
I think the next step is really to secure global relationship and partnership with really big transportation companies operating globally and in multiple cities. This is more on the customer side. When it comes to partners, so mostly people developing technology or developing vehicles, we are now also accelerating quite a lot and building relationship with tech companies, historical car makers, OEMs, tier 1 suppliers, because we know that we are in an industry where anyway it's impossible to do everything alone. And even big companies like Mercedes or Renault, Nissan, they understand that. So it's an industry where partnerships are really, really important, and we want to be able to be in a good position to secure partnership with big companies. So it's really like the two paths. On one side, customers, on one side, partners, and both are helping each other.
How do you achieve and maintain a balanced life?
I think you don't have any secret for that. Being an entrepreneur, you have to work a lot. It's your company, so it's not really a usual job. So clearly you work at 24/7, but you have to find a balance. But I still don't have the secret.
Okay, how do you keep focused?
I think you just have to put priorities and to know really what is important for you in the next 1 or 3 months. Also, you have to be able to delegate, which is not really easy at the beginning when the team is scaling. Then you have to rely on good people in your team and if you want to scale fast. Otherwise, doing everything alone is not possible.
What's most important to you in an investor?
I think it's to have what we call smart money, because just finding people putting some money is fine and you can find that pretty easily. But if you want to have investors who can bring you value like network, advice, knowledge about scaling international companies, it's a little bit harder. But at Bestmile, we were lucky to find partners like that, helping us to support, let's say, our growth.
What is the best tip to get an investor?
I would say it's important for us to have investors who understand why our industry or technology is specific. It's really an industry where you have to invest a lot at the beginning if you want to build a strong technology platform, but you cannot sell millions at the beginning, because as long as fleets are small and as long as you don't have a lot of vehicle, you cannot generate a lot of revenue. But nevertheless, you still have to grow and scale and invest in technology. So you have to find investors who see this kind of long-term vision and ambition.
When you look back on your 5 years in entrepreneurship, what was your most memorable startup moment?
Well, I think we had quite a lot of them. It might be like the first big partner or the first customer. Clearly, fundraisings are always really important milestone, because it's really a way to scale forward and to start, let's say, a new step in our story. And we also had quite a lot of visibility worldwide when it comes to startup competition. We were part like this year of the World Economic Forum. So all these kind of small moments are really important in the way we operate and scale Bestmile.
But these are all highs, any lows?
No, always. Like, I think managing the team is always hard. Like, over the last 12 months, we more or less doubled the size of the team. And so having this kind of scaling is never easy. So you have to make sure people can work together in an efficient way, making sure you communicate correctly. We have people all around the globe, and making sure everyone has the same information at the same time. It's clearly a challenge. But I think as of today, we manage that quite good, in a quite good way.
The last part of the interview is about you living a legacy for the future. Maybe you can give some advice, something that like you feel like, oh, you wish you knew 20 years ago or 10 years ago, or maybe even just before you started, like something that you can share with my audience out there.
Well, I think when you are an entrepreneur, like I'm an engineer, I did some studies at EPFL in mobility and transportation, but on my daily life, I'm almost not using at all what I learned in my school. So I learned a way to learn, a way to think, but at the end of the day, when you are an entrepreneur or a co-founder of a startup, you are spending your day managing finance, customers, HR, investors. You have to do also quite a lot of PR, like what we do today. It's a lot of stuff you don't learn at all at school. You just learn by doing. And I think you just have to start. You have to take a little bit of risk. Don't ask yourself too many questions, and you learn by doing. Then it's all about finding a balance between scaling fast and in an efficient way, while still keeping the level of risk as low as possible in order to make sure you can align your scaling on the timing of your industry. Because in our case, we are really in a new industry, fast-moving industry. This industry is going to change, again, a lot of things about the way people are moving and living in cities, and quite a lot of people are comparing autonomous vehicle to like the beginning of internet, like 20 years ago. So it's going to have massive impact, but nevertheless, the timing of this industry is still a little bit unknown. So you have to scale, you have to become big enough to become a credible partner for big companies worldwide, but still being smart enough to align what you do on your market.
Right. Good. Raphael, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, everybody who tuned in today for today's video interview. Make sure to stay tuned for a few more seconds so you'll see who is up next week. Have a great day.
Hello everybody, my name is Thomas. I'm the co-founder of 24 Aerospace. Make sure you tune in next Monday when we talk about vertical takeoff and landing aircrafts and about challenges.